Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We're super excited about today's webinar. We are going to be focusing on Sage 100's warehouse capabilities. We are here with GM, who is our warehouse guru when it comes to all things pick, pack, designate for different areas. Anyways, I could go on and on about the cool warehouse functionality, but GM's going to get into it. So GM, I will let you take it away.
Sure thing. And just to make sure this is already recorded, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
It's automatic. All right, good. All right, so so my name is GM Maris again. I just wanted to briefly give you an introduction. So I have 20 years of experience with Sage 100, 14 years as a customer, and the past 6 years has been as a partner. So basically, just a little bit more background. The Warehouse 100, or the warehouse side of Sage 100, is actually something that I implemented when I was a customer in-house. And after that, when the past 6 years as a partner, has implemented it with other customers as well. So there has been a lot of experience in terms of warehouse knowledge, et cetera, that has been acquired recently, I guess. And that is something that I use, on a day-to-day, or on my any implementation projects that I have in terms of for warehouses and stuff. So, all right, let me go ahead and get started. All right, so what is Sage 100 Warehouse? So basically, Sage 100 Warehouse, you are able to, or it gives you an opportunity to track inventory real time, right? So whether you are in front of a computer or on a handheld device walking around the warehouse, you are able to keep track of it, or be able to see where items are, right? It's definitely much easier to use a handheld device than going off of memory. So before Sage 100 Warehouse is implemented, typically from what I see from users is, they know, or they have folks that has worked there for a long time, and basically just remembers inventory based off of memory, right? So that's something that we want to take away from users, and we wanted to give you the power to have that information in your hands, right? So real-time inventory tracking, being able to monitor item reorder points. If a reorder point threshold is reached, something that you are able to keep track of. Integration with shipping carriers, customizable reporting, warehouse layout optimization, barcode and RFID integration, order fulfillment, and also compliance and security. And for future highlights, something that SCI or Stewart Tech can actually help you with, this is going to be part of our implementation process, is helping you possibly design and optimize the warehouse to fully maximize storage space and improve workflow efficiency. So as of for layout planning, then also for slotting, optimal placement of items within the warehouse based on demand and picking frequency, having possible primary locations for items where actual pick locations for items where you are able to replenish it from overflow location, etc. Traffic management, right? So a lot of our customers has a certain pattern of how their pickers move around the warehouse during pick pack process, right? So instead of having going from the back to the front, etc., going back and forth between aisles, you want them to snake, right? So that's something that customers as a common request from our customers. So if you think about it, if you're in a grocery store, for example, you don't want to go back and forth between produce back into frozen, etc., and then you want to make sure that you are moving through your warehouse as efficient as possible. Okay, and that is part of the order fulfillment. So picking, packing, and shipping. So basically trying to streamline that process, making sure that you are using a guided picking route, reducing travel time, and improving accuracy, right? So there is data validation as well on the handhelds, or on the application for when you're picking an item, right? So you want to make sure that your pickers are actually grabbing the correct item and validating it through scanning, right? And being able to pack or maybe assign what box or pallet the item goes to on the packaging side of it, and being able to notate that and save that information in Sage, or possibly print that on a packing list to give to the customer, or put it in a specific package, box, or pallet, what have you. So whoever is receiving it on the other end knows exactly what items are in. Okay. So with Warehouse H100 Warehouse, it also has integration capabilities. Being able to automatically generate shipping labels or documentations for different or various carriers. Being able to provide real-time tracking information for outbound shipments, right? So FedEx and UPS, for example, are able to import that tracking information inside of Sage 100 and be able to also email that to customers. Cost management, I think this is something that is good now with, or like, something that is needed as everything, all the prices basically keeps rising. If you're able to cut costs on and be able to compare which shipping rates from multiple carriers, that's something that it can actually integrate with, right? Barcode and RFID integration, right? So scanning supports barcode and RFID scanning. GS1 barcodes are actually something that is it's capable of scanning as well. It's not on here, but something that I just thought of. What else? Enhances tracking of items from receipt to shipment. So purchase order receiving, right? So trying to simplify that instead of having to write it down in a piece of paper, handing it over to somebody, and then having to do manual data entry inside of Sage 100. This is something that warehouse folks are able to do out on the floor, be able to verify what is being received from your vendors, right? And to reduce errors and yeah, basically improve efficiency. Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the demo. Few things that I will show to you guys is the application in itself, right? Being able to keep track of items, etc., on your warehouse, kind of like what I mentioned. And then also, we're going to go through the picking and shipping process with the handheld. So on here, as you can see, this is the interface basically on what is going to show on the handhelds. This is based something that you can actually download. The application can be downloaded in the Google Store or for Android users, I guess. And for Apple users, it's on the App Store. So it's just a regular application that's downloaded into whichever handheld device that you have, right? So it is very compatible with a lot of devices, okay? So on here, as you can see, you have inquiry, receiving, inventory, transfers, etc., physical count, shipping, picking options. The easiest way or the simplest way to describe what you can do in a handheld is basically the transactions inside of Sage 100 is transferable, or it's something that you are able to do on the handheld device itself, right? So instead of having to be in front of a workstation, you can just bring the handheld with you around the warehouse and do the transactions that are needed, okay? All right, so first off is the inquiry side of things. You are able to, or it can support multiple warehouses if needed. And on here, you are able to look on item level, bin location level, or lot serial, right? So whichever one you wanted to look at or do a lookup, you're able to. So I actually have an item here. There's a desktop PC that I wanted to take a look at and see how much we actually have in stock, right? So as you can see on here, you have the desktop 002, and you have the item description that is pulled out of Sage 100, and this information is real time, right? You have the primary bin location if you have one assigned to the item, and then on the quantity in warehouse, last physical count that was counted, quantity on sales order, and quantity in shipping, right? So, and on here on the bin side of things, you are able to click on the lookup and be able to see where in your warehouse this item is, right? So for example, it's like, all right, so where's this desktop located? You can see it on here. It's in shipping. There's 4 items in there, and then also in the bin location 0201-8. Right. So with that bin location, that's something that we actually talk to you about as well. If you're starting from scratch trying to implement warehouse, we are able to suggest or make recommendations on what the bin labeling sequence that you may have on your routes, right? So for example, this is a typical one that we suggest to our customers. Basically the 02 is the aisle on the warehouse, right? And the 01 is the column within that aisle, and then the A, B, C, the last part of it is basically the level of the shelf level in that aisle, right? So if you see this location, all right, so I guess I'm going to aisle 2, column 1, and in the bottom shelf or A right there. This is where I'm going to find 59 of this item, right? All right. And another thing I think that from what I've seen, based on experience, the biggest change from our side being a customer was the benefit for physical count. Our physical count manually back then usually took 3 to 4 days, from freezing the entire inventory, printing the sheets, distributing them to counters, having the counters go out in a warehouse, notating on the sheets like how many they've counted, handing it over to somebody, usually typically that's the accounting department, entering it in Sage 100, and then doing variance checks, make sure that everything looks good, and then recounts, etc. Typically from our side back then, that took 3 to 4 days, right? So our company was basically shut down during the physical count, right? Now, or after implementing Sage 100 Warehouse, that was reduced on to a Saturday for 6 hours, right? So that was one of the biggest changes that I've seen. Benefit in physical counts, or having Sage 100 Warehouse is just that, right? So the time to actually do the physical count was dramatically reduced and accuracy increased, right? So, and it's pretty simple. You'll go to count by item, you select or enter the item that you are counting, enter the bin location where you are counting it, and then entering the quantity and then sending it over to Sage 100. Right? All right. So the next thing that I wanted to show everybody is the picking and shipping process. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. All right. Oh, and I wanted to show you as well, I'm gonna go back into that item maintenance or item inquiry piece on here as well. Let me type in the desktop item, be able to see it. So this is real time, as you can see inside of Sage 100, that is where it's located. And in item maintenance, there's a multi-bin tab that's going to be added on there with Sage 100 Warehouse. You'll be able to see the inventory level is the same, 59, 59, 4, and 4, right? So be able to keep track of specific location. You are able to do it on the handheld device and then also on inside of Sage 100 as well. Yeah. All right, so now let's go ahead and go to the picking and shipping process. All right, so I have an order here. I have a picking sheet, right? So this is typical for customers to have, is a picking sheet for fulfillment. So as you can see in here, Carter's Computers are wanting to or purchasing a desktop from us. And once handed over to a picker on the handheld device on the application, you are able to go to picking. Order picking, you have a few different picking options here. We can go into that detail once we're in the implementation stage and actually pick whichever one, which process fits best for your team, right? But what I'm going to do is select order picking on here. And order picking, what it does is it actually direct you in the warehouse to where to go, right? Depending on that, path that you wanted to for the pickers to use, right? Kind of like I mentioned earlier, if you wanted it to be a snake process, right, or picking, that's something that we can implement, and that's how the pickers are going to be directed into in your warehouse. Okay, so it'll ask us for the warehouse code, staging bin. This can be changed however whatever you'd like it to be called as the staging location for the order. That's something sometimes I've seen other customers, if they have multiple docks or staging locations for fulfillment for shipping, that they wanted to specify the dock number, right? So if you look into the item, if something was picked, you know exactly where which dock number or shipping staging location to look for that order, right? So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and hit shipping. And then it'll prompt us for the sales order number. So the sales order number for this is 44, I believe. Yep. And this is something that you are able to scan. For the picking sheets, you are able to add a barcode on here, which is the order number, so you don't have to type it in or do a lookup, right? So, but you are able to if you wanted to. You can click on the lookup, and basically all the orders listed on here are open orders that are pickable. Okay. If scanned, it'll just populate that sales order number on here, and then give you a recap of what you can and can't pick from that order. So as you can see in here, there's one line in that order, lines in your warehouse, and lines you can pick. So it gives you that information prior to starting the picking process, just to give you a recap or an idea of what you're actually going to pick for that. Okay. Once you get started, as I've mentioned, you are able to, or you are going to get directed by the application, by the handheld device, to where to go in your warehouse. As you can see in here, you do have that sales order number in here. You have that bin location where you're supposed to go. You have the item, or it tells you what item you are supposed to scan, how many was ordered, how many you have to pick, and if there was anything that has been picked already, okay? And so if ever the item is in multiple locations and one location cannot fulfill the entire order, it'll direct you to both, okay? All right, so now it tells us, hey, you need to pick desktop DSKT TP-00200 in bin location 02-01-A. So that is something that you can scan. Ideally, your items are barcoded, so there is a item validation on that end, right? Instead of having to type it in, obviously, it makes it a lot more efficient if you're scanning the items instead of typing it. Think of it like, if you are in self-checkout in the grocery store, you want to make sure that you're scanning the item so the system knows exactly what you're purchasing, right? Or picking in this instance. So desktop 00200, and then entering the quantity. Once you are done picking, this order only has one item in it. What it'll actually do is the system actually knows how much you are able to pick. As you recall, there is a recap, or not recap, but heads up, like how many lines are in the order, how many you can pick, and how many you can't pick. So the system actually knows as well. Once you're done picking all of the items, it'll give you a warning. It'll give you this message that, hey, do you want to submit data collected on the handheld for processing? So lines of sales orders selected for picking should all be picked from one warehouse. Everything's done. If you wanted to send it, you can. So go ahead and just click yes, right? And success, collected data was sent to be imported. Press OK to continue, or hit results to see order status, right? So if you wanted to really verify that the transaction was sent from the device over to Sage 100, you can go ahead and hit results. And then from there, you get a confirmation of all records collected by my user, SCA, have been imported properly. So now, what the system will do is grab those two items that you picked, right? Basically translate what you're doing physically to that item, grabbing those items from 0201A bin location and bringing it over to the staging location shipping, right? So that's exactly what the handheld device or what the application would do as well. So if we hit OK here, the order has been sent. So basically the items are now moved from the bin location where we picked it from into shipping. And if you wanted to see that on the order level, you're able to. So if we go into sales order entry, go into that sales order, go into the lines and go to that line, and you can see here on the distribution, the item has actually been transferred over from the 0201A bin location into the shipping staging location, right? And the one really good thing about this as well is Sage 100 Warehouse actually has a really good audit trail as well. So if you go into the item level and go into this binoculars icon, this is the detailed history for that item. You'll be able to see what happened to that item when it was transferred from 0201A into the shipping staging location, and you are able to see who actually did it, right? So this is SCA is my login on the handheld, so you'll be able to keep track of that, right? So you have full visibility of where the item is or what happened to that item, who did it, right? So you are able to keep track of that. And as I mentioned earlier, you are able to create customizable reports if that's something that you want to keep track for productivity, for example, right? To give credit to, you know, maybe you have a picker that picks a lot of orders, for example, for the whole week or for the whole month. You are presenting some awards or something like that. That's something that you are able to keep track. A few of our customers actually do that. So that's something that is available for you. Okay. Right. So on the picking side, right? So we have picked the item, and now it's actually in the staging location shipping, right? So now you have a picker, grab the items, handing it over to shipping now to package the items, and then also to ship it out to your customer, right? On the handheld device, you are able to implement 2 scanning process. You don't have to, that's optional. But if you are able to implement 2 scan process, you are able to do that as well. Yeah. So on the handheld, going back in here, you are able to use the shipping feature and select shipping. And then the batch number in here, so what this actually mimics is shipping data entry inside of Sage 100. If you're familiar with it, it is typically, or it looks like it is the invoice data entry side of things inside of Sage, but a shipping interface, right? So it uses the same data tables in the backend. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on that, but that's the simplest way I could explain it. It is basically a shipping interface for your fulfillment department, okay? And if you're familiar with shipping data entry or invoice data entry and you have batching turned on, this is something that I am getting prompted to. I can create a new batch. For example, today is Tuesday 0604, just so I can separate all of my orders that ship for today into its own batch. I'm just going to use that. And then if you wanted to add a comment for that batch, you are able to as well. And the shipper ID, so another way to separate, right? Who's doing the shipping and who's doing the picking. If you have a shipper ID separate from or you have a packaging department separate from the pickers, you're able to have that separation in there on, you know, who packaged the product, right? And then the sales order number, 44. And again, this is something that you're able to scan ideally from the picking sheet, right? And then from here, now you have the second verification on the item. If you wanted to scan it, you're able to, right? Or you're able to type it in or click on a lookup to see what items are in that order, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and type it in. And from here, as you can see, because the item was picked, it'll actually grab the items from the shipping staging location and fulfill it, or like, verify it, right? So at this point, you're not verifying any bin location since it should be in the staging location already, right? So you have the bin shipping here, quantity 2, and then that's it, right? So if you wanted to, you are able to review the transaction, make additional changes to it, or just in case there's something that customer comes back, it's like, oh, well, I actually wanted 1. If you needed to make changes to it, you are able to do that here as well. Okay. All right, so once you're done with the packaging side of things, you are able to go ahead and send it over to Sage 100. And it's the same thing on here. Every transaction that you do, you will get a confirmation that, hey, the data has been collected and triggered to be sent to Sage 100, right? And when you hit results, you're able to get the actual verification that Sage 100 did receive it, right? And so if it wasn't received, you are going to get a notification here as well that, hey, there was a rejection, Sage 100 didn't receive it. You are able to keep track of that or actually investigate that as well inside of Sage 100. Okay. All right, so now, once that's sent, once Sage 100 receives it, there is a functionality that can be turned on where Sage 100 will automatically print packing lists instead of having to go inside of Sage and actually manually print the packing list. There is a automatic packing list printing feature that can be implemented as well, where we'll print a packing list into a network printer, so you can just grab that and put it in the box for that order, right? So now that Sage 100 received it, our batch number again is T0604. We can click on the lookup here. There it is. Click accept, and this is the Sage 100 shipping interface, where it'll ask for the same shipper ID. And then on the order number, I can look up on what's inside that that shipping, right? There we are. There's the item on here as well. If you have integration with, your shipping integration, the tracking information, etc., can be imported into here automatically, as well as the freight amount, right? And the packing list, if you don't have automatic packing list printing, you still want to print the manual packing list, you are able to do that here. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's see if I have a packing list here. And I'm just going to go ahead and preview it. And again, this is something that can be customized for you if you wanted to. You have the number of packages here. If it's multiple packages, you can have a separate packing list for each package, right, etc. Okay. All right. So yes, that's the picking, shipping, or a brief demo of Sage 100 Warehouse. Jess, I guess turning it back to you.
Thanks, Jim. That was an incredible overview. I learned a lot that I didn't even know you could do. So, if you guys are interested in having a deep dive demo with GM to go through the ins and outs, or set up a workflow call to better optimize Sage 100 Warehouse if you're already using it, my information is on the slide here. You can call me directly, or you can book on my calendar link, and we appreciate you guys spending the time with us. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jess.